You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
It is time for Happy Hour. It's the Man Cave Happy Hour. Whiskey, cigars, spirits, the stories, and puppies that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
I am Matt Fox. Hey, everybody.
And it is a tasting Tuesday
and I would
with
like
puppies.
to introduce you to
my God, look at those.
Louie and Ella. Louie Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. Thank you, Pamela. You may take them now.
Oh, my God. Those are gorgeous. What kind of dogs are those, Michael?
Maltipoos.
Maltipoos. Okay.
Maltipoos. They're almost 2 pounds each.
All right. Those
yes,
are
they're about, they've been with us about 2 weeks now, week and a half.
Good looking critters. Good looking critters.
No, she's okay too. But,
yeah.
That's another.
Hey, hi, bye. But Tasting Tuesday, Joe Louis Bourbon. We are Peter Guidi in the house.
Hey, Peter's here.
Looking good. Got the sun streaming in. Got a glass in hand. Michael, Charles, everybody's. I'm not poured yet, so I got to get myself in order. But Michael, we were going to talk a little bit about music today, right? We were thinking about diving into the music scene.
Yeah, well, it's not just about diving into it here, but Peter and I have discovered a lot of things. We've learned a lot of things about Joe Louis and the marketing of bourbon over the past year and change. And one of the things that really came out of left field is that there was a big band leader, jazz performer, DJ, African-American, very popular, played all the clubs, the Apollo, he was Cotton Club, all those classic places. And in 1951, I did a post earlier today. Let me actually just open up the screen here. Hold on. No, I don't want to do that yet. Hold on.
I like about Tuesdays with you guys is I always get a buzz on before dinner.
That's one of my favorite things about Tuesday, too.
So in 1951, this is an ad, a Lucky Millinder ad, I Drink Shenley, a whiskey, which, by the way, still exists. It's a brand that was bought by Constellation, whiskey brand. It's a whole bunch of spirits. But, what happened is that he and Joe Louis shared a lot of interests. They both were from Alabama. I don't really know what we're going to have to ask JoJo what their direct connection previously was. But he actually left. He not quit, but he stopped performing in 1952 to be the director of promotion for Joe Louis Bourbon.
Wow. Okay.
Right? I don't know if you can hear any of this.
Yeah, I got it. I can't hear that.
Do you hear it?
Barely. No, I'm not catching the audio.
Wow. So,
while Michael figures that out, if you think about that period of time, the big band clubs, the Harlem Renaissance, the jazz clubs of Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland. Joe Louis was the coolest black man on the planet. Okay, there was nobody cooler. And he was cruising around Detroit, a 4-door, 1937 Pontiac, big old beast of an automobile, and hanging out at all the clubs, and Lucky Millinder was playing. It must have been a wildly fun time.
Yeah, I would imagine. Absolutely.
Yeah, so he basically, he literally did get off the road and stop performing for a year until 1953, and he was the head of promotion, and he's credited with really driving a lot of the sales back in 1952. He was still being himself, but he really was focused on promoting the bourbon more than anything. And he created excitement that drove sales. So the tee up here is that we're bringing in Joe Gransden, who is a big band leader. He's going to be joining us this evening. And the question is, can he beat Lucky? Can he help us sell more Joe Louis?
Well, can we bring back this? Can we help you play a role in bringing back this unbelievable piece of Americana, this wonderful American music? I mean, this is American music at its very core. This is the root of the Rolling Stones, man. I mean, this is where it really all began. Rock and roll's heritage sits in these bands, and it's we've listened to a whole bunch of African American bands from that period of time recently. We've had friends. A friend of mine sent me a clip that actually mentions Joe Louis whiskey in it. It's a marvelously rich moment in American history, and Joe Louis was a big piece of that puzzle. But the music endures in a way that most of us don't even understand how much our own musical heritage sits inside of this music.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. You think we'd learn a lesson. Decca Records, right? Wow. So that's hey, and speak of the devil appears.
There he is.
Joe Gransden's muted and with us. He's gonna tell us get the jazz perspective on things. But what I was gonna say there is, like, you think we'd learn our lesson, right? The Harlem Renaissance was a big turning point in America, and African Americans getting a voice and being heard and being seen as artists and being appreciated as artists and poets and writers, and trying to get their voice out for the things that were happening, much like a lot of things that are going on now. But part of that, and you said how it led to the Rolling Stones and how it led to rock and roll, because it was the hipsters and the zoot suiters and these marginalized, disenfranchised people, and the dance went from the big band swing to the rock and roll. It really led itself into it, and just the wingtips and the zoot suits and that whole culture, visually interesting to us now, but back then it was a badge of honor, and actually could get you beat up and in trouble or jailed just for wearing that type of clothing and listening to that type of music. Hey Joe, welcome.
Hey, now people are wearing flip-flops on an airplane.
Yeah. It's I love
How you guys
stuff.
doing?
We're
Doing well.
Good. I just got out of the pool. I jumped right out of the pool to come down here and hang out.
Aw,
Good for you. Well, thank you. And you probably missed the thing we did at the beginning of this, which was talking about Lucky Millinder and how much of a role he played in getting Joe Louis bourbon on the shelves. And the last section was, can Joe Gransden beat Lucky? Little challenge for you.
That's a tall order. I'll do my best.
Right.
I bet I can drink more Joe Louis than he did.
Well, fortunately, you're alive to do that. So no, I'm thank you, Joe, for coming back. And we were talking about Lucky, and obviously it was one of the reasons that we felt there was such a natural potential partnership here. And I wanted to kind of chat a little bit about some of the things that we're working on that are still not gelled. But when you were on this show a couple of weeks ago, we were just making the announcement that we were going to be forging a relationship with you, with the Joe Gransden Big Band. Right. And so have people been, we haven't done a lot of promotion on that, but have you been getting some good feedback?
I have been getting some good feedback. I've been telling a lot of people and just kind of feeling people out, just about connections like that. And with the COVID-19, hopefully, the stay-at-home thing coming to an end, getting back out and representing a product has been really exciting for a lot of our fans. I haven't put it out there on Facebook that much, except for the one or two things we did. But when I talked to my friends who are all bourbon drinkers and some of our fans, we did a nice live stream concert not too long ago. And I spoke to a lot of the people involved in that show, and they were very excited about it. So I think we have a good chance to sell a lot of bourbon for Joe Louis and the Joe Louis family and the brand. And I'm excited to do my best for it.
Well, and I know you will. I just wanted to make sure that we close the loop, because when you were here last time, we were talking about you doing the first of what we hope now and are planning for to be a series of live stream big band events that you did. And that was a fundraiser for Cafe 290 here in Atlanta. How did that, I watched it, but how did that feel, and how did that go behind the scenes?
It felt good. It was one of the most nervous experiences I've ever had. The only time I was more nervous was a few years ago. I got to play at the White House for the national tree lighting ceremony, and that was pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was fun, but it was nerve wracking. There's machine guns everywhere. There's TV cameras everywhere. There's thousands of people in the crowd watching, and then it's going out over the airways live. So. And it's 30 degrees out. So I was very nervous that day. I got through it, but I didn't think I'd be nervous for the live stream we did for Cafe 290, but we teamed up with a company called the Big Green Egg, and they have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. So I was cool until about 2 minutes before we went on. And then I started realizing this is a live stream, and anything I say, anything I play, anything I do could potentially be going all over the world. And it just got in my head a little bit. But I calmed down once the music started. I felt more comfortable, and I was kind of back in my element. But we raised a lot of money for that club, and people came through, fans came through and donated. Kenny G watched. I thought that was kind of cool. Kenny G was watching. He really enjoyed it. He gave a nice donation. Oh, there's some of it right there.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I was looking for the actual show, and it's not on Cafe 290's page anymore. But
it is on the Big Green Egg page.
It's on the Big Green Egg page. We'll go there because we want to give them a little shout out too, because we're working on putting together, working with them on these shows with you guys. And what better combination than barbecue and bourbon? Right?
He's speaking my language, right? That is exciting.
I'm done. Good night, everybody.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to jump on tonight, was to say hi to Joe and Charles, for sure, but also to talk a little bit about Lucky Millinder and the whole Harlem Renaissance time. We're coming up on the 100th anniversary of what they would call the Tulsa Wall Street massacres that occurred in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and so that period of time in Black American history was a real time of renaissance, and was a real time of excitement, and the Black community was really moving forward aggressively. And Joe Louis and Lucky Millinder really represented a large part of what was happening in places like Harlem, Chicago, Detroit, Tulsa, as many Black American communities were coming out of post-Reconstruction and were building successful societies. And it was a real golden moment in time. And that part of the history is really in the music itself. And what I wanted to announce is that we're going to be moving forward with a new product. You guys haven't heard of it yet. It's called Brown Bomber Bourbon. And Brown Bomber Bourbon is going to be a maple-infused bourbon that's got the same color as Myers rum. It'll have a sweetness to it. It's actually quite nice over rocks, by the way.
Yes, we've tested it.
Yeah. But the thing that's key to understand is when you think about the way the bottle will look the way the music sounds. Okay, that's what we're after, because Joe Louis was a gigantic cultural figure. He wasn't just a boxer. He wasn't just a civil rights guy. He was an enormous cultural figure. And when he showed up on the scene, whether it was New York or whether it was Chicago or whether it was Detroit, it was a big deal. And when a guy like Lucky Millinder, who was at the top of the industry, joined up, you had two very cool guys who held a lot of power and sway in their communities out there trying to get something done. And I think it's in that spirit that I really, really am excited to see this music come alive and to connect it to the brand. I just to me, it's one of the most exciting. I mean, I love the boxing connection. I love the cause marketing. I love the sports marketing. It's really, really important to what we're trying to accomplish, our mission. The idea that we could be a part of bringing some of this music back on the scene and energizing the life that brought it out is just, another big surprise in this brand for us. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to go back, Lucky was actually really the first ambassador, if I could, of Joe Louis Bourbon.
Yes.
And, when we talk to ambassadors today, they love the brand and what have you. But Lucky kind of took it to that next level, from what I understand, what I see. So
he may have been the first brand ambassador for
anything.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the first African American.
Yeah, that was great. Absolutely great.
Joe, really fantastic stuff. And Joe, I can't wait to hear you play some of that music, man.
Well, I'm excited. Right. I think that I have a guy in my band named Wes Funderburg, and he writes all our arrangements. And I think what we'll do is we'll find some of those hits that Lucky had, and maybe we can rearrange them for our band and try some of them.
Yeah, why not?
It might be fun. I mean, and
how about something like this?
The Tobacco Chew is it's a fun one.
When it comes down,
oh, there it is.
The spit tune sound, ding, 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 chew tobacco, rag. Ding, 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 chew tobacco, rag. Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, rag. If you never had a chew in your life before, take one chew and you'll chew some more. Go to the store and buy a plug. Make the copper door do the jitterbug. Ding, 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 ding. Chew tobacco, rag. Ding, 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 ding. Chew tobacco, rag. Chew tobacco,
I like that. I think that's going to lend itself well to.
He wasn't the one who wrote that song, and that's been done. That's been done by a bunch of people over time. But there are a lot of people who think Lucky Milner's rendition of that is the greatest of all of them.
Yeah,
and so really kind of an interesting tune. But to me, what I like is when I look into those pictures and I look at the people's faces, what I see is people who are happy, people who are having fun, people who are successful, and to me, that's the most outstanding part of it all is that broader context that all this was happening in, and something that I really hope we can, attach the brand to and to help. I mean, I don't think a lot of Americans really understand that period of time. And when you look at everything that's happening today, today was a momentous day with, Mr. Floyd's, doing funeral services and what unbelievable set of circumstances in American history. And we, there has been so much good in the past, and we really need to push that out there too.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That Chew Tobacco song, though, I love that call and answer part of it, and like it just seems like you would be able to get your band just jumping in the crowd, jumping with that one. Decidedly,
that song and the way they were playing it, they were so right in the pocket,
Yeah.
And it's that music back then in that era, it was dance music, and later on, jazz and swing, it became more of a listener's type of music with Miles Davis and guys improvising long solos. But back then, it was dance music. That's what it was meant to do, and make people happy and keep people moving on the dance floor. So even though that song had a little slide whistle and had a couple little corny things in it, they were right in the pocket, and that was really swinging. Yeah. So you could tell that he had an amazing band.
Yeah, and there's a number of we haven't found any pictures, by the way, yet of him with Joe Louis Bourbon, but he's got that song that I pulled from the open, a whiskey wash, so he's got a bunch of songs about things like that. But.
Yeah, that's cool when they line up with an artist and the artist or somebody in the guy's band writes a song, guy or gal's band. We wrote a song, we wrote a little spot for Big Green Egg. And we just did a quick run through of it, and we wrote an arrangement, and now they have it on their wall of fame at the headquarters. They have guitars and instruments from different people that have written for them, and they put ours up there too. So we'll do a recording of that, and hopefully we can come up with something really sweet for Joe Louis Bourbon.
Well, we're counting on that.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. So, Michael, I had sent you an email with a photograph in it, I do believe. I don't know if you got that
look right now while I'm
or
doing
not,
this.
but Charles had found an image in. It was actually, you put it in one of your books, right?
Yeah, read out about one of the books. Yeah.
What was that illustrating? Where'd you come across that image?
It's been such a long time. I forgot where I actually got the image.
Mm-hmm.
I went. There was thousands of pictures. My books are heavily illustrated, so there's a lot of photos. So, but I just thought it was cool. From wherever I got it from, it actually mentioned that it was in 1935, and that it was at the Plantation Club with Joe Louis, and he was like, that's actually saying a little caption if you see it on the screen there, but like. And especially wherever Joe Louis appeared at, like it was an event. Like it immediately turned like whatever was going on. If Joe Louis showed up at that place, it was the hottest spot to be at. Like he was like total cultural like icon. And so like you can kind of see it. Like in this case, like just to give you an example, in 1936, he was in Cleveland for opening day for a baseball game. And they literally dragged him out of the crowd to throw out the opening pitch. Like it was like all of a sudden it was like the coolest thing. And then so yeah, they like I say, you see him in this picture. He's leading a band, so you can just imagine he went to this club, Plantation Club, and
what are the chances it was Lucky Milner's band?
That's a great question, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine he's at the Plantation Club, and they're like, "Hey, Joe, lead the band," and he's up there. You can see he's smiling, having a good time. I mean, it's, I love that photo because it really kind of captures just a small moment in time, but you can, picture say 1,000 words, and
yeah,
very cool.
You can see how he's, in it.
It's just like a young, smiling baby face on him right there. That image was great. He's so young, and he looked like he was just having a riot.
And you can see it in that one moment, that like snapshot of time, and you can hear the music playing like while he's up there.
So it says October 4th, 1935. So you got a good lead on possibly if you can dig into the records of the Plantation and who was in residence or booked in in that time frame, you might be able to pin it down. It could be. You never know. It could be.
I believe there actually is a book. By it's a book with the Plantation Club. Like there's like somebody that put a book together about it. I think it's one of those Arcadia Publishing books that you see like the second on covers. I believe there's a Plantation Club book. That maybe that's a good place to start for looking.
Yeah, might be able to pin that down.
Yeah,
I like it. So Joe, you're hugging your trombone, your trumpet there. Oh my God, I've had 3 sips. My dad was a band director. He's like rolling.
I was wondering, James, is that like metaphors or what?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. Joe, you're hugging the trumpet there, though. That looks like is that your regular trumpet?
That's my horn, man. This is the horn I've been playing for a while now. I actually had this in high school, this exact instrument, and I dug it out recently during the stay-at-home time and cleaned it up, and I've been playing it for a while. I really like it.
Right on.
It's got a nice tone to it.
How many different
the trumpet that you found when you met your first that band teacher that kind of changed your whole mantra around music itself?
That is not this particular trumpet. No. But I do have that one too. I got trumpets everywhere, man. I
would imagine.
I turned them into lamps and my wife's not happy. There's a nice horn.
Oh, love it.
But this horn's nice. It's got a nice. I'll play a little for you. It's got a nice bluesy sound to it. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I'll stop this. No, it's okay. I'll stop this.
You do, yeah.
I'd rather hear it live.
kind of almost sounds like a voice, you know.
Well, that's quite a song to choose.
That's what?
A great song to choose.
I'm just making up a little bluesy something. That's all.
Hey, do you want to take a little look at Joe Gransden's sizzle reel?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
All
hear
right,
it.
here it comes.
Man.
Come on, Michael. It's easy.
Very short sizzle reel. You missed it.
Yeah, exactly. Hang on, I gotta hit the share button first, then it'll work.
Oh,
Okay.
ads. Yay.
And I've made up my mind just to live in memories of all the lonesome times. What'd you say?
So we're here at the Blue Note. We're playing tonight. We got the 16-piece big band. It's a sold-out first set and a sold-out second set. We're very excited about it. The guys are ready. We're ready to swing.
In dreams of yesterday.
All right, it may not be the sizzle reel, but good.
Always wanted to play at the Blue Note. It's just a history. All the greats played here. Play here currently, still play here. I mean, it's the Blue Note. It's the pinnacle of the jazz clubs in the world, and I think every jazz musician dreams of being at the Blue Note and playing a gig here.
We're gonna get drums up front on number 145.
Played at the Blue Note, from Chet Baker to Dizzy Gillespie, Freddie Hubbard, Miles Davis. They've all played on this stage, so it's exciting. It's going to be a little nerve-wracking at first till we get a little warmed up to it, but when you're in the presence of these greats that were on this stage before you, it's a heavy load to carry. So we're excited.
We easily have one of the greatest trombone sections in the country playing.
Hey, there it is. So Joe, is there that's awesome
We're
stuff.
gonna skip.
Is there any place you haven't played yet that's kind of on a bucket list of I would really love to play this venue?
Yeah, there's a few. I wouldn't mind playing Carnegie Hall someday.
Ah.
That would be a bucket list, for sure. But that's what are you going to do?
Yeah.
The Blue Note was certainly a bucket list thing. When I got to play there, and we've done it. I think we've done it 5 times, possibly 4 or 5 times.
Nice.
I've been there twice with you.
Yeah, you were there twice with us for sure. What's the club in real famous jazz club in Europe? See, now I'm drawing a blank, but Chet Baker did a live record there. It'll come to me while we're talking, but
yeah.
I would say Carnegie Hall for sure. That's my dream.
Here's Joe actually playing at the Blue Note.
How many piece band do you have there, Joe?
17.
17 fellas.
We are ready. Are you ready?
That was just loud.
Okay, now we want to hear you. Here we go. I hear music when I look at you, a beautiful theme of every dream I ever knew. Down deep in my heart, I hear it play. I feel it start, then melt away. Yes, I hear music when I touch your hand, a beautiful melody from some enchanted land. Down deep in my heart, I hear it say, is this the day?
Oh,
nice.
That's great.
All right, how cool is that?
Very cool. That was fun.
So I was in the audience for that one, and I can tell you it was pretty awesome. And I look forward to sharing, introducing John to sharing, but I guess it is sharing. I feel like I want to have you all to myself, but really exposing more people to the music. And, this is another tie back to the Joe Louis legacy. We're talking about inspiring a new generation of champions to be good citizens through boxing. Well, Joe is every day, and his band, most of the guys in the band and the gals in the band, they're music educators, a lot of them. And it's about really keeping this sound alive, this cultural legacy. It's really, it's so great to have everything connecting, all the dots connecting.
It also represents, this music represents freedom at the highest level, basic freedom to improvise, freedom to express yourself. At the same time, you got to work together as a team, and it's like a family. There's good times and there's bad times, but when you're a jazz musician and the freedom that you experience as a musician and as an artist is unparalleled. If you're a classical musician, sometimes you're stuck with the music that's in front of you, and you have the freedom to phrase it the way you'd like, and you have the freedom to put your musical touch on there, but the notes are already written down on the page for you. Well, in a big band like mine, there are notes written down on the page, and we do have to play those notes, but there's also big, long, open sections where musicians in the band get to improvise and get to show their stuff and really pull the emotions out of their body and get them through the horn. So for us, it's the greatest job in the world. I would never have chosen anything else to do.
So Joe, when do you get back out on the road? What do you mean? What's your what are the venues saying? I mean, when can we have people sitting next to each other instead of 6 feet apart? I mean, what's the deal on that?
I don't know. I don't have a very positive outlook on that. I think it's going to be a minute before we're all sitting right next to each other. I mean, some of the clubs we play at, not all of them, but some of them are very small. And if you fill the room up, maybe there's 100 people in there shoulder to shoulder, right? And the energy and the intensity is so fantastic that you just absolutely love it. I think it's going to be a while for those venues. Some of the bigger concert halls that we might place, the performing arts centers that can hold a couple thousand people, maybe they can every other seat have somebody soon, but I don't know what the restrictions are and when that's all going to open up. I do know I played the other night at a small club in Atlanta, and there was enthusiastic people there and they enjoyed themselves, but at the bar itself, there was a person, and then there was like 3 bar stools before they could seat the next person. And so they can only get about 8 people at the bar, and they have a table of 4, and then they'd have 2 tables empty, and then a table of 4, and then tables empty with signs on them, "Don't sit here." So it was nice to get out, but it was a little bit depressing. But myself and all of us musicians, as depressing as it is, we realize that it's for safety, and obviously when the time is right, we'll be back doing it again, but we certainly don't want anybody to get sick coming out to hear us,
I think there's another option here, and that is the drive-in concert venue. I believe this is true. I believe that there's going to be a huge resurgence of the old concept of drive-in movie theaters, but for performance venues, because if you're in your car, and now with we all have our smartphones and our Bluetooth technology, the idea of getting great audio in your own vehicle to hear it, tune in is pretty cool. So I'm going to put it out there. If anyone wants to develop a large parcel of real estate, I think that Joe would be
into some young lady dancing with a high energy. That sounds a lot more fun than
Well, it's interesting. You talked about bars and capacity, and in Michigan, bars can operate, but they can only operate at 50% capacity. So they can, but they cut the capacity to 50% of what it was. And here's the trick. Here's the trouble. I was listening to John Tapper. He's that bar rescue guy. And he was on another whiskey podcast, the Whiskey Cast, and he was talking, and it's like a bar, a restaurant, a bar that is the main purpose is it's bar, and they have some food. They make all of their money, 70% of their money for the week in 16 hours, right? So 70% of the revenue for the week happens in a 16-hour window. And if you cut your patrons in half for that 16 hours, you're not making it, and it's not like you're like, oh, well, come at noon, I mean, only me, teacher off during the summer, is going to be at the bar drinking at noon every day. But most people aren't going to be able to do that. So they still have that 16-hour window to make their revenue. It's quite the challenge. And then
I think that's the universal challenge for every restaurant, every bar. How can it's not sustainable to say we're going to open with have even if they have slightly lower staffing counts.
Yep.
Their operating expenses are still the operating expenses. And,
Food,
and if
labor,
you're only serving 50%.
I don't know. We drift too far away from the music. And
sorry.
That's the object of this podcast is to be happy like the music.
Yeah, my question mark is I want to see people drinking Joe Louis bourbon and having fun in bars and listening to bands. I mean, that was my 20s was just following bands around the local Detroit music scene, just loving it. And I love all kinds of music. And I want to see that exist, and I'm so happy that Joe is going to be repping the Joe.
In the early '80s, late '70s, early '80s, I had a buddy who had a recording studio in Boston, and this was right when the Boston rock scene was really ripping it up, and we would not even show up there until 1:00 in the morning. It didn't even get going until a little later.
Yeah.
That's like Smalls in New York City. But Joe Louis, the comeback, right? Maybe this will be a nice comeback from the stay at home, and we'll all come out and it'll be just awesome.
Yeah, and maybe also the music can serve to help bring more people back together again. Maybe harkening back to a period of time where people wanted to dance when they heard music, and there was a real commonality around. There still is, I guess, really in a lot of places. But I think we've got an opportunity to tap into some great American music that hasn't been heard for a while, and I think people will dig it if they hear it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, where can people hear you? Because like terrestrial radio, I mean, there's not a whole lot of your big band and your jazz in those stations are sometimes relegated to weekends or on the AM dial. In a lot of the markets, it's the pop and the country and the urban and the rock that take up the radio dial.
Alexa,
and news and talk.
Play Joe Gransden.
So that's the thing. That's it's of like Spotify, Pandora. Are those, how important are those to jazz musicians today? These digital platforms, how important are they to you, and how are you leveraging it?
Well, they are important to me, and I'm lucky to be on Spotify. I have 2 Pandora channels that get a lot of airplay. I don't really receive any money back.
Those micro pennies, they're collecting them in a vault so that they can send them to you
micro
in a
pennies?
little envelope.
Did you call them micro pennies?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Pennies.
I love that.
But that's kind of cool because I do get emails and texts and Facebook notes from people all around the country that maybe I knew it in 4th grade or 5th grade, and they'll say, "Oh, I just heard you on Pandora. I just heard you on Spotify."
You're on
we
Sirius.
get some airplay on Sirius XM radio.
On Seriously Sinatra, they play you a bunch. Yeah.
Yep. So that's really nice exposure. And then locally in Atlanta, I get played quite a bit on the jazz stations here. But other than that, it's tricky. It's tricky for a jazz musician.
We should tell people about that because now anyone can listen to any terrestrial radio station online. And here in Atlanta, on Saturday nights, it's really Friday nights too. It's blues, but Saturday nights, Jazz Classics. Is it at 10 or 11?
I think it's 10.
10. WABE 90.1 FM, the NPR station.
Mm-hmm.
Guy H. Johnson, who, by the way, is a huge supporter of Joe's as well. You'll hear a couple of Joe Gransden or big band tracks usually on a Saturday night there. That's been for 40 years on the radio.
He's been on the radio 40 years, and you know, his counterpart Lois Reitzes has a show Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. called what's the name of her show? Oh gosh,
City something.
City Lights, and she's a fantastic radio host. And she just about 2 weeks ago they switched over all their introduction music to my music. So when you every day on her show they're playing a song I wrote called "The First Time." And it's really, really been great for me. The response from the public is fantastic. And she opens her show with it, and she closes her show with it, and she says something nice about me every time. She's been fantastic. She has tons of listeners.
And you're getting those micro pennies? You're getting micro penny royalties?
Nickels. Micro nickels.
Take it.
Take it.
Better than a hay penny, but you're good. You're good.
Oh, that's great.
I like that because the life of a musician today is different than it was, 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago. It's a different gig, right? I mean, you can't get the guys in a bus and a van and go around and grind it out in the clubs because they're fewer and further between. So how do you get the music? How do you get the music out there? And it's so these digital platforms I think are pretty amazing.
The digital platforms are great, man. They do get the music out there. There really isn't any touring for a band that's my size, unless you're Count Basie's band. They still go out on the road. I think Michael Bublé takes a big band out with him. Probably Harry Connick Jr. does, but guys like myself don't really have that opportunity. We may fly out to a city and play one show and come back. So it is very, very difficult. And there's really no more CD sales going on. So at the end of your show, you're not standing back there making a couple grand selling CDs like we might have done back in the day,
T-shirts
that's
maybe,
pretty
but
much
not CDs. Yeah.
Say what?
T-shirts maybe, but not CDs. Right?
Yeah, T-shirts. We're still selling
hats.
Yeah.
The guys
I gotta get my
I think back to that period of time where I took all of my albums and I put them on tape. If I'd known now what I know, if I known then what I know now, I think I'd have just hung myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. So now you have to decide as a musician. You have to make a decision. If you don't have a big record label behind you, you have to decide if you're going to record. For me to record my big band, it costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and I'm not going to sell any CDs. And I'm not going to get any money from the spins or whatever you want to call it on Spotify or Pandora. So I have to record. I have to keep my name in the loop. But back in the day, we might have made some of our money, if not all of our money back, by selling CDs. So now you got to make these recordings, and you got to find a way to recoup your costs. And it's very difficult.
And it's even more difficult when you can't lure them to buy tickets to the next live show, which is generally what you've been successful at doing. You pack places. I mean, I go to Cafe 290. I haven't gone obviously in 3 months, but and what does that hold? 250 people maybe?
It's a little over 200, and we've been there 11 years now.
Yeah, and it's generally sold out. I mean, there might be a couple of nights like on a holiday Monday where there's some empty seats, but it's generally sold out on a Monday night.
Well, people love this style of music, and they're going to love this bourbon too. I know that crowd at Cafe 90 are going to go nuts when they see the Joe Louis bottle in my hand, and they can buy it at the bar, and we can do some promotion that way. That's that kind of crowd, they love the brown liquor, they love the bourbon. The guys in the band, it just seems like a really, really cool fit for this style of music and this comeback that's about to happen.
Very cool.
Nice hat.
You like it?
Yeah.
I know where you can get one.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, you just came out. You just dropped an album not too long ago. Am I correct in that?
It's probably been a little over a year.
That's still recent enough. Yeah, Go Get It. Yeah. How many albums do you have out there right now with you and your band right now?
Well, I have 16 CDs, 16 albums out under my own name. Now with the big band, I think out of those 16, 6 or 7 of them are with the big band.
Oh, yeah.
A couple Christmas records, with the big band, and then, but 16 all together. I've been recording since I was in my early 20s. So I think my first record was 1997. 1996 or something like that.
Were you 12? Is that when that came out? Is that
no, man. I was born in 71, so I'm getting there. I'm
right
there.
behind you, buddy. You're good.
I got you all beat.
Yeah. So Peter, you had teased us earlier talking about the Brown Bomber bourbon coming out, and you said it's going to have a maple. How's that happening? Right, because bourbon,
it's a maple infused bourbon.
Maple infused. All right, because bourbon can't be flavored in any way to be called a bourbon, correct?
Well, that's right. And so you have to take a bourbon and then you have to maple infuse it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It must be bourbon first.
Sure.
And then you maple infuse it second. And so it is maple infused bourbon. It's not.
And this, it's all locally farmed or sourced honey, maple, that literally the distiller goes up and brings his plastic totes on his trailer and goes and buys all the maple that at harvest season that he can get.
You know what it reminds me of though a lot when I drink the maple bourbon over ice. It kind of reminds me of drinking a Black Russian. That's kind of what I taste. Very similar taste to a Black Russian. It's got that sweet liqueur-y taste, but it's still kind of has that bite to it. Right to me, when I put those two next to each other, it's like, wow, that's really, really, really similar. And
I know I'm gonna like it.
yeah, and so very tasty stuff. I definitely see it. Afternoon drink outside at a barbecue. Great summertime drink.
I think it's a great winter drink.
Yeah, well, I like it.
All year round drink.
Let's just call it a great drink because we drink all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I come to this podcast, so I start drinking a little before 5.
No idea what you're talking about, Peter. Zero idea. Zero idea.
All right.
So yeah, it's pretty exciting, but and I love the drink itself. I love the whiskey itself, but I'm completely enamored with what we're doing with the package and with the music and trying to create an entire connection there between the music and the product and the period and we spent so much time developing Joe Louis the boxer, right? And it's just to switch gears now, into Joe Louis the social icon, and music was really a big part of that. Obviously, Lucky Millinder jumping on board. Where was Joe hanging out on a Friday night with the band? He was with the band, right? And I don't know. I grew up in a beach community, and I was a lifeguard in town, and that we thought we were pretty important people. But where we hung out after hours with the band.
With the band, everybody wants to hang with the band.
Right,
we love that.
Right.
Gentlemen,
Michael's always running in the green room.
I usually am. Hey, how you doing? He's like,
it's not necessarily a question of when it's or if. It's a question of when things open back up, and you have to start laying your bricks now. So when we're ready to rock, you have your plan of action and you're ready to go. So for you, Peter, I know everything that you're going through right now. You're to have that business plan and you're rocking it. Thank you for what you do, and same thing with you, Joe. You guys, you work hard, and you have a passion for what you do, and I cannot thank you enough for having the Man Cave a part of what you guys do. So, and it's just going to continue to get better because honestly, we all started at ground zero, and we're just going to grow from there. So, really, really appreciate what you guys do.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, we're appreciating that support. This is we did not intend for this to be more than a one-night event.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was supposed to be a single podcast.
Yeah.
we're a handful
Detroit.
down the road.
I really hope we're bringing some pleasure to the people who get a chance to watch it. I don't know if people realize how much work it really takes to put these things together. You guys, Jamie and Matt, putting all this together week in and week out, and the rest of the things you do during the week. It's not easy, but we're really broadcasting some content that, I hope as time goes on, people look back at these events and say, wow, look at the seeds we watched get planted.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I hope it's helping the rollout here in Michigan. I hope we've been a part of
we should
the positive
tell you
message on that.
Any updates on numbers for?
Yes, in fact, actually, I should tell you.
Let's go to the tote board.
I missed an email. I missed a message from Jeff from who wanted to join us live with an update. But 670 retail locations. Peter, was that the last count?
Yes, it is. Well, I'm not going to call you a liar for 2 or 3 accounts. So yeah.
I'm sorry, it was 673, 672. But yeah. So I added another 70 retail locations in the past. So
well, and by the way, we can say now that we're going to Oklahoma next. Yes. We're going to be in Tulsa. Tulsa, Oklahoma will be the next spot we meet, and so where Michael's going to begin his magic up in Oklahoma, and so kind of an odd spot to go next, but it is where we're going.
Yeah, and so we can also foreshadow some of the other markets. The timelines aren't solid yet, but
we're shooting after New England. We're really, for all practical purposes, ready to get going in New England. As you guys probably know, getting into these states is reasonably complicated from a regulatory and licensing perspective. And so we're busy dotting I's, crossing T's, and then finding out on page 42 there's a few I's and T's you missed. and so we're digging our way through all that, and hopefully we'll be in Maine and New Hampshire, perhaps Massachusetts shortly, and then right after those phases it'll be down into Florida, Georgia, and probably Ohio. And so we're doing what we can. We're doing what we can to manage. It's difficult when you think about it. Everything's shut down, and everybody's really just trying to protect the route, and finding ways to get them to think about what's next is a little bit difficult right now. You can't get on planes. You can't go to bars. You can't go listen to Joe, for God's sakes, unless you're 6 feet away from somebody.
Right.
My goodness, I don't even know what that means.
Fortunately, you can go to the liquor store.
Well, and so,
and you can also order it online.
Yeah, that's right. And so, we're doing what we can do, and from this perspective. But I think that it is what it is. We're doing the best job we can and having a good time doing it. At least trying to.
Yeah. All right. So, Joe, people just kind of shout into their smart speaker and say, "Hey, play me some Joe Gransden," and hopefully it'll find it for them. Where else can people find you? Websites and what have you.
Thank you. My website is joegransden.com, JoeGransden, and that you go to that website and you can kind of link to a lot of different places to hear the music. But of course, I have a Facebook page and Instagram page and Twitter and all that stuff that we all do. So I'm out there. I'm out there for sure, and I'm representing myself these days, which is really fantastic. I really have been enjoying that. So I'll continue to try and get the music out there as much as I can and keep people swinging.
Yeah. And Joe, as you rearrange history musically and what have you, there's, Charles, who is a historian within the sports area. Charles, where can folks find you online and such?
My primary website is, my main thing is DetroitCityOfChampions.com. That's my main thing.
Fantastic.
I've got a lot of Facebook stuff and stuff like that, but the website's the main thing.
Yeah. So, and how many books in total are there, Charles?
I have 3.
Okay. And
I've got a bunch. I've got a lot of stuff. Like the books are like my main anchor. Like I said, I do like the books. The books are sort of like like at this point, business end of what I do. Yeah. And I've got a lot of stuff. I do like a lot of baseball research. It's just like all unpublished. Like I've got crazy. I've got a screenplay for the movie, which is like, that's not something you don't even. It took me a year to write that. It's just, that's more of like, that's something I'm trying to get turned into a movie type. So I've got quite a few things, but the main business component, the thing you can actually acquire is the books.
All right, DetroitCityOfChampions.com. Yep, and we're going to dive, Charles and I are going to dive through that whole Detroit story and lay those out in an independent podcast just called Detroit City of Champions, and just really dive deep into the individual players and the individual stories and the owners and everything that and all the politics around it and everything that came together to create that 1935 year. Because what's one of the odd championships? Because there was like over 30 different world championships won in Detroit in 35. What's one of the off-ball ones?
Well, the one I the one I like to, I mean, I mentioned the oddest is the world checkers champion.
Okay.
But one of the ones that I don't. But another odd one. That's like really. I mean, I mention that all the time.
Did we win the spelling bee that year? Did we take the spelling bee that year?
That I don't. I mean, that I don't know.
I have to get back to you on that.
Yeah. We did. But it was funny. It's funny that you mentioned it like that because there's an article at the end of the book that I use that the writer was talking about because there's like literally 33 championships. I go through and I chronicle every single one. Especially in the third book. And it's funny because a newspaper writer put out an article saying that, we've got people inundating us with all these bizarre, like greatest rubber band shooting champion, like all these things they're trying to add to the list so they can get get on this, get in on this thing. So they get invited to the party at the end of the year and all this stuff. So, but he goes through and he actually lists. I forgot which ones off the top of my head, but they're crazy. He's got a whole list of them. And he mentions the people's names. But he's like, yeah, this one's couldn't make the cut. It was just too, it wasn't really, we couldn't verify the fact that he actually was the rubber band swinging champion. The sense of humor in the newspapers back then was just really. I really think that you could actually do an entire course on 1930s journalism to show.
Oh yeah.
Why those papers were sensational, and for stuff like that, where the humor they had in those kind of moments.
Yeah. So, but it was the Stanley Cup, it was the baseball World Series, it was the football championship, basketball. Was basketball a thing then?
It kind of was. It kind of was. To my knowledge, there was no professional basketball.
Okay.
To my knowledge. But there was college basketball, but it was totally different than it. It was really almost a different sport than it is today.
Sure, yeah, because that's something I'm always meant to ask you because you mentioned the big dogs, the football, the baseball, the hockey, and it's like basketball had never come up, and I'm like, was basketball even a thing, or was that one that we missed out on that year? So it wasn't a thing.
No,
okay.
That was more of like the 50s is when the professional basketball really started to kind of take off, but
right on.
But one of the coolest ones that kind of illustrates like how dominant this season was is that the Red Wings the Red Wings won their championship in Toronto, and they made they partied that night, of course, and then they made all haste to get back to Detroit for the next morning or for the next night. Because the Red Wings actually came back to Detroit and watched their minor league team that is called the Detroit Olympics, and they won their championship the day after the Red Wings won theirs. So there was 2 professional hockey championships in Detroit that year, the minor and the major league, that's within a day of each other. I mean, that's just you just can't. I mean, literally everything won, and the cool thing, I have one of the greatest photos you'll ever see. We'll definitely put that up on our show. Because I've got a photo. It's one of the first photos I bought, and it's got a celebration banquet for the Red Wings and for their minor league team, the Olympics, and they're all at the same table, and they have the trophies on the table. They have ice sculptures of the trophies. They have all their jerseys on the wall behind them. I mean, it's got this huge room of people, and you can actually spot some Lions players in the crowd. But what's so great about the photo is everybody in this huge banquet room, everyone is turned towards the camera. They're all turned looking behind them. Of course, all the people at the table are looking forward, but everybody else. So it's
isn't that what everyone does now?
Yeah.
When it's a selfie.
Yeah, but it's just the photo is just so big. You just can't believe that they got everybody in it. And and everybody at the exact same moment is looking at the camera. It's just it's just such a cool photo. And they're all the major and minor league team are both there for that. For that dinner.
I don't know why I'm thinking The Shining right now, but
right.
That's just me.
So there you go. Detroit City of Champions, the books, and DetroitCityOfChampions.com, and that podcast is coming soon because Charles just has so many of these stories, and we're going to break them all down and share them.
We were on schedule to do it right before this Kona, Jamie. We were 2 days away from starting it.
I know.
And then it got. I mean, I was literally it was down to the minute of whether we were going to do it or not. And then it was all.
We're back in the studio next week, so we got to talk about cracking that open. JoeLewisBourbon.com, Joe Louis Bourbon on Facebook, right? There's a great information on there. And when the Brown Bomber is coming out, I'm sure there's going to be the first place where it's going to crack, as it were. ManCaveHappyHour.com and all the socials. It's the same thing. Guys, it's another hour's flown by. I appreciate it.
Fellas, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Always fun. Always fun, guys.
Thank you,
And,
Joe. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Charles.
Cheers.
Thank you, Matt.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you, Jamie. You know, not to bring down the party, but I, if I may, just in closing, just share the post that we have up today on Joe Lewis's Facebook page.
Yep, thank you.
Kind of poignant. Few Americans, black or white, have contributed to the nation's social development quite like Joe Louis until today. George Big Floyd had big plans for life nearly 30 years ago. His death in police custody is powering a movement against police brutality and racial injustice. Like Joe Louis, Big Floyd's impact on American society will resonate well beyond his time on Earth. Amen.
Cheers.
Thank you,
Cheers to
man.
George, for sure.
Amen.
All right, you guys.
Alrighty, everybody. Have a
We
great week.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, we'll see you again.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Guys, take care.